Randy,
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. We're just waiting for folks to join us.
You look cozy.
I am nice and cozy.
I know it's that kind of a day. It's like the dampness makes it cold.
It does. So
Yeah.
I'm all ready. Nice warm sweater. Good to go.
How did you survive the first Power Net Summit?
It was very, very well received. We had a lot of amazing comments.
Right.
You should try and get to February.
I will. In fact, I just got off my mastermind, and the topic today was like sharing insights from the Power Summit. So it was fun to like get feedback from all the people who attended.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you gave us access to the handouts, but when somebody puts a context around it, then it just makes more sense.
Yep.
So that's why I was like, but no, what I meant was like, how did you survive in terms of like all the planning and the preparation?
Oh, it was good. That was easy.
I really like the videos you guys sent out, by the way.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah, was there supposed to be just the sound and no image when you did that recording? Was it on purpose?
No, technically you should have been able to see something.
Really?
You're talking about this.
The one where you guys talked about all your whys?
Oh, maybe you couldn't see it on the screen because it was a black screen. That might have been why.
Yeah.
There were just little words to it.
Yeah, but I was like, wow, that's impressive. Like you guys had a deep, profound impact by not having anything on the screen, just the words.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Hi, Rick.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Good.
Got the week off to a good start.
Mm-hmm.
What we like to hear.
Not for nothing, but you don't look like Tammy.
No, I'm a little bit shorter than Tammy.
How you doing, Wendy?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Oh, good. We expecting a full house today, or what's the?
Don't know.
Whoever shows up, huh?
Yeah, whoever shows up, shows up. We usually give it a minute or so after 3 till folks, get logged in and that type of stuff.
Or
Cool.
Otherwise, I'll get personalized coaching from Rick Lochner about what do I need to do to publish my book.
There you go.
That's okay. It wouldn't be the first time that happened, so nothing wrong with that.
I was telling Wendy that I just got off my mastermind. And I actually told people after I get off here, I'm going to Rick Lochner's session, so don't forget. So let's see.
Well, maybe you scared him off when you told him it was me.
No. We all love you. You know that.
Uh-huh.
Well, Rick, I was scared off, but I decided to come anyway. This is Phil Pride.
Hey, how's it going, Phil?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I wasn't scared off. I was looking forward to it.
Mike, it's nice to see you in person.
Yeah, I heard your voice before.
I know. I was finishing up one thing and trying to get onto the next one. And I didn't want to wait too long to figure out my web and video and everything else.
Yep. See, they're popping on now, Rick.
Oh yeah. That's all right. It's good. Yeah, this is a pretty good platform. I've actually used it to coach, and I remember I was coaching 3 sales managers. One was sitting in front of a PC, one was sitting in front of a laptop, and the other was sitting under an overpass on an iPad.
Wow.
And it worked fine. So, yeah, it's a pretty good platform.
Well, you're talking about it is part of what made us say, let's look at Zoom instead of the GoToMeeting, because we always had issues with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works to a certain size, but most times I'm not coaching more than 6 or 7 at a time anyway.
I just canceled my GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting subscription. I'm going to move everything over to Zoom myself.
Cool.
Well,
I know. It's everywhere I turn, I see Zoom going and being very successful. So.
Well, since it's 3:01, first of all, Rick, thank you for taking some time to share with us why you should publish a book, if you should publish a book. So with that, I am going to turn it over to you, sir.
Okay, very cool. So in true fashion, I look forward to the opportunity to kind of share my thoughts on publishing a book. Just to set the record on why me, I have self-published 5 books. I have another one in the works for spring of next year, 6 out of a 6-book strategy. So I'm not a newcomer to publishing or self-publishing, to be more correct. And so I thought the way I would structure this is kind of share some of those ideas, but first and foremost, what are some of the things you're looking for? I mean, sounds like a few of you might have books in progress. Sounds like maybe you're in that camp of, hey, I've always thought about writing a book. What's your reasoning for spending an hour with us this afternoon? Anybody?
So for me, it's something that has been on my list that I want to do and bump up in the priority, and I'm just interested in benefiting from the experience of somebody who's gone through and done it.
Okay, very cool. We can certainly help you in that regard. What else?
Same here, Rick. I have a couple of different ideas that I've been putting together, and I want to publish my book for 2 purposes. One is as an opportunity to actually meet more prospects and market myself through the book. But I want to know, what does that entail? Because I have the ideas, I have the format, but I don't know how to go about doing it.
Okay, very good. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, this is Mike, Rick. I'd probably publish a book because I want to learn something. They say the best way to learn something is to teach it. And
yes.
So that would be my motivation.
Okay, that's a good one. I certainly learned a lot, not just on how to publish a book, but I find that when you commit yourself to writing, it validates your beliefs and the way you think. Because now you got to put it in black and white, right? Now it's real. And now you're going to share it with the world. So you better, by God, stand behind it. Unless you're writing fiction. But I don't know. Is anybody here looking to write fiction versus maybe business books or something that relates to your business? Because we're not going to cover that.
No. Just business.
Okay. Sometimes people think what I wrote is fiction, but that's a different story altogether.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into any venture that you're going to take off on, such as writing a book. It's like anything else; it's got to have a functional why to it. So, there's a lot of different reasons why people write books. That is their job. Some people that is what they do. So they write. If you're into that sort of thing, you make a living doing it. Part of books make good for coaches and consultants. Books are a great marketing strategy, and as I'll explain, that's really one of the main reasons why I write. It's part of my marketing strategy, and I'll explain some of the benefits that comes with that as we go through. If you're a speaker, one of the things I learned early on, and I've been a public speaker most of my life, one of the things I learned early on when I started asking people for money to speak is that one of the first questions they asked me is, do you have a book? And so if you're planning on hitting the speaking circuit, a book is one of those questions. Doesn't necessarily guarantee you a speaking gig, but it will definitely get you closer to the front of the line. I always thought about, you read some of these examples of people getting, $1 million down payments to write a book. One of the things I can assure you one of the reasons I don't write, or one of the things that is not appropriate or not relevant to why I write, and that is to make money. My writing keeps beer in the fridge. That's about it. So if you're looking to get rich, this is probably not the workshop for you. Unless you've got some wicked good idea that none of us have ever heard of before. But the other reasons are all really good ones. Anybody? Go ahead. Did I hear a question? Okay. Does anybody have another otherwise than what I've already suggested?
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because in the past I have self-published a book, nothing to do with business. It was kind of a hobby thing that I did. And I had the brainiac idea that I was going to make a lot of money off of it. I still have
Yeah.
boxes of books in my attic.
Well, and I think that's one of the key elements of this conversation is all 5 of the books that are on the market were self-published, and as will my 6th one that will come out next spring. I just believe self-publishing avoids the fact that I don't have boxes of books sitting in my garage. So, and I'll explain how that all works here in a second. Any other thoughts on reasons to write? Okay. All right. So my reason was really just marketing. Part of my marketing strategy. I realized that from day one, and many of you have heard me call myself a recovering engineer. So marketing really isn't my strong suit in the sense of, I know it's important, but growing up as an engineer, not something I really practiced a lot of. And so, but I knew that having something different was always going to be part of an effective marketing strategy. And when I started the business 10 years ago, again, being a public speaker most of my life, I knew that public speaking would be part of my marketing strategy. And so I went out and I got quite a few speaking gigs, but wasn't making a whole lot of money at it in the sense of, it wasn't my primary income stream, but I was still doing too many freebies and struggling to get into the bigger payout speaking gigs. And I kept hearing a theme that, hey, are you an author? Do you have a book out? And so that's when in 2011, I said, okay, I need to revise my strategy and really think about this, about becoming an author. And I had, and it was literally with the help of my accountability partner that I had at the time, I knew that running a business that was just getting its feet on the ground, because it started in 2008, this is in 2011, add on to what I was already doing, writing a book and getting a book published, that was going to be a bit of I was really going to have to really manage my time appropriately. But I thought it was important, and I was fortunate in the fact that one of my clients at the time had self-published 8 books already. And so she really helped walk me through. As a matter of fact, on a couple of occasions, I traded off her knowledge for my knowledge on coaching her business and helping me self-publish to the point now that actually that is her full-time job. Her full-time job now is a coach for aspiring authors to help them self-publish.
Wow.
So it really was, a strategy to help complement the speaking and the coaching that I was already doing. So now it just became if you think of it along a continuum, I write so I can get the speaking gigs. I speak so I can get the coaching gigs. And that, since 2012, when my first book came out, has been my marketing strategy ever since. So, that's really what I do. I write so that I can get speaking. And I speak so that I can get coaching. So the strategy now, or part of the strategy now, has to be, how does this represent, what do I write about? Because obviously, like the rest of us, it has to represent my brand. And so, what is it about my brand that, could I write about? Well, fortunately for me, I've had a business alignment model that I've used since 1996. I created it when I was still a director of engineering at Sprint, and it's been modified over the years as I've gone to different corporate executive roles and just refined it over time. And so that was really the crux of, okay, I'm going to tell the world about this business alignment model that I've been using with much success in multiple different corporate settings, entrepreneurial settings, and the like. And so that really was the brand that I wanted to represent. And then I sat down and said, okay, what makes the most sense? And I sat down in 2011 and came up with a 6-book strategy. The first book was really just to get the business alignment model out to the market, just educate them on what business alignment is really all about. And I think that's important, at least it was for me, because as a systems thinker, a lot of people try to, and we know this as coaches, a lot of people try to fix their problems in isolation. And part of my differentiator was to help them fix it systemically, not in isolation. So, we all know that if you put effort on one part of the business, it's going to have an impact somewhere else in the business. So if you look at it holistically, that's really the message I wanted to put out there. And then I also realized that because coaching was part of the business, that the business alignment model addresses organizational leadership, but it doesn't necessarily speak to my individual coaching clients. And so it was actually my wife's idea, who's a partner in my business, in our business. My wife's idea was, hey, you got all these newsletters, you got all these blogs, why don't you just package them in a book? I believe in the marketing vernacular, they call that repurposing. But in our simple view of it, it was because people love the newsletters. So that was part of the strategy. So the third part of the strategy was, so I've got the model on the street. I'm going to put the model on the street. I'm going to address both organizational and individual. And now, but how do I address the 3 different segments that I operate in? So I work 3 different verticals. I work small business, entrepreneurial, business owners, and I include individual professionals in that category. I work nonprofit leaders, and then I work with corporate leadership teams, the larger, mostly privately held, but a few publicly held corporate leadership teams. So how do I address them so that they know that I get them? And that was part of the strategy. So where that strategy landed was on 6 books. So before I go into the 6 books and why each one of them is relevant, anybody have any questions? Questions or something, I can clarify on how I got to that point?
Yeah, so with the topics, a lot of times when I'm writing, a blog article, it's like, gosh, I just feel like I'm reworking same old. And of course, putting my own twist on it and my own experiences and anecdotes into it. Sometimes I it just feels like that's all I'm doing. And did you fall into that? And if you did, how'd you get out of it?
Well, it took me a while to really grasp this idea of repurposing, right? Because it's attitudinal, right? If we think it is, then it is. But if we think it's something different, then it is. It's something different as well. And I had I was in a dual mentor relationship at the time with a young woman who I was mentoring her on starting her software company, and she was mentoring me on digital marketing. So we had a dual mentorship relationship going. And she was the one that introduced me to repurposing. And, the thing about repurposing that got me past this mindset of, well, I'm just writing the same thing over again. What got me past it is, yes, but different people are reading it, right? Not everybody that reads my newsletter is going to read the same thing in LinkedIn or the same thing in a book or the same thing in Facebook and et cetera, et cetera. So I didn't think I'm not that I'm rewriting the same thing over again. It's that I'm using the same material to reach multiple people, multiple audiences. The other thing I think we have to realize is that, let's face facts. Content wise, we haven't invented anything new in the leadership realm in 100 years. So, but contextually, this stuff changes every week. And so I think that's the key when we write, is we write to the context, not the content. So, I mean, if you could see behind me, I've got an entire bookshelf with not only the the trusted advisor materials on the bookshelf, but the fact that I've been a undergraduate and graduate professor at multiple universities, I've got an entire library of textbooks. So I've got plenty of material. I could write a new blog every day. I'm not going to, but I could write a new blog every day of the year and still never cross the same path content-wise. But I think what people really want to hear is context. It's about the context of what you're writing. And that's, to answer your question, Phil, that's what really got me past the idea. The content is not what people read my stuff about. It's the context in which I put it, and how I bring it, how I tie it to current events, or how I tie it to, stuff that's going on. My most recent one was on onboarding. I've seen people screw up onboarding when they do have an onboarding process. And that just, so I just use that as a topic.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that. Change it from content to context a lot. I guess I kind of fell into that unconsciously in my blogs. I would start to write about content, which is kind of a natural thing to do. Yeah, okay. Good.
Cool. Any other thoughts or questions before I jump into actually the books that I wrote and why I wrote each one of them? Okay. So going back to 2012, I wrote The Missing Piece. Just generically, that's what I call that's the title that I've wrapped around the business alignment model. And the missing piece is a reference to business alignment being the missing piece, right? And what I did is, if you've read books like The Go-Giver, if you've read books that's the one that comes to mind. There's been others that use these characterizations. They tell it like a story, and there's characters in the story. That's what I wanted to do. So I wrote The Missing Piece with 3 characters in mind. One represented an entrepreneur, one represented a nonprofit leader, and another one represented a corporate leader. And so I wrote it in the same format as The Go-Giver and others that use these stories to make their point. And I gave it to a professional editor, and she ripped it to shreds. So I rewrote 75% of that draft. So I guess 2 points. One is, have a professional editor in your network to make sure that you're not, full of your own writing, and be prepared that you may have to rewrite, just based on, does that really sound like your voice or not? So what I did is I wrote it kind of in a mix of educational based marketing materials, but I still put the characterizations in the book itself, gave them names, gave them background stories, that sort of thing. And then use those characterizations with the thought being, I want my readers to say, that's me, right? That I want them to be able to identify on some level that whether you're a nonprofit leader or a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, that happened to me, or that's part of who I am. So that came out in 2012. And again, the intent was 2 things. Now I'm an author. you're an author whether your book sucks or not. You're still an author. So, I mean, that's, the market will tell you whether the book is a good one or not, right? And then now I've got the model out on the street. Now the market knows that the business alignment model is for real. Now, obviously, there are people out there that have worked for me in corporate settings that already knew it was real, but now I needed to tell a whole nother audience that there is this model out there that I use that essentially I created contextually. You'll notice that nothing in the business alignment model is new content, to Phil's point earlier, but contextually it's wrapped a little bit different. So that was my intent. That was it. That was the goal. It's on the street, and I can now put author on my LinkedIn page and say, I am it. I have done this.
Have you put them on Amazon?
Yes, they're on Amazon by default, because Amazon is the agency that helps me self-publish. But I'll kind of get to that here in a second, because I want to go through the process that I use to kind of help you know what the steps are. But just from a strategy, so the second book came out in 2014. I'm just saying, and basically I pulled my network and I said, okay, I've got 5 years worth of newsletters. I said, which ones do you like the best? I took the top 46 based on the vote, and so my goal was 52. Right, so I wanted to write 52 articles. Publish 52 articles. So I wrote 40, I took 46 that already existed, and then I published 6 brand new ones. That way it didn't look like I was really, just nothing but repurposing, that I wanted to throw some new material in there that had never been published. Now, it has since been published in a newsletter, but there was a period of time where 6 of those articles were only published in the book. So I published I'm Just Saying in 2014. And again, that addresses the individual leader. So that was a book and that's my bestseller. That's a book that pretty much anybody in any circumstance, individual, organizational, make a difference. There's something in that book. And the format was each blog article could take no more than 2 pages. So you could pick up the book and open it anywhere, and there's a complete article. Title, content, and then an open-ended question at the end that, with the intent of getting them thinking about, which I do all my newsletter articles, getting them thinking about what I just wrote about. In 2015, I published The Missing Piece for Entrepreneurs. So now I'm taking the missing piece idea and I'm making it specifically for my entrepreneurial clients. And then I added 3 more characterizations. So 3 more entrepreneurs, small business owners, etc. Characters that, again, my intent is that the people reading the book could identify with at some level. One was couple of years in. Another one was an associate or somebody who was merging, somebody who was expanding. Again, these are all characterizations of people that I work with. And so the intent here is these characters are actual profiles of people that I go after. Somebody were to ask me, what kind of an entrepreneur or small business owner are you looking for? I could easily give these 3 characters as, Jane, John, and Fred Doe as here. If you see these people on the street, these are the ones I need to work with. In 2016, I published The Missing Piece for Nonprofit Leaders. Same idea, three new characters, same model, just written in their language. And again, the whole idea here, part of your strategy of writing is you want to appeal to your audience. So the language I used in The Missing Piece for Entrepreneurs is different than The Missing Piece for Nonprofit Leaders, even though it's the exact same model. Right? In the for-profit world, we talk about sales and products and services. In the nonprofit world, we talk about fundraising, programs, etc. So it's different language. And then last year, I published Missing Piece for Corporate Leaders, again, to address my larger corporate clients. And the nice thing about, in all of these projects, on some level, I've had clients involved in the process. The Missing Piece for Entrepreneurs, I had 2 of my small business clients review the book. Same with the nonprofit. Same with the corporate leader. I had 2 of my corporate CEOs and EVPs actually review the book and put that in the introduction so that again, it's got some credibility. I also had different people write forwards. The first 2 people for the entrepreneur and the nonprofit are both authors themselves. And then Jim Gottschall actually wrote the forward for the corporate leader one. Now, instead of handing out a brochure, when I'm talking to a nonprofit leader, I hand out a book, literally. So, questions at this point before we go into how to self-publish?
What are people's reaction when you hand out the book?
It's, I've got the street cred, right? Because here we're talking, they're talking, about what's keeping them awake at night. I mean, that's what prospects do. And so I pull out if I'm talking to a nonprofit leader, I pull out the orange book. By the way, I have 3 colors in my logo, and each of the last three books has a different color page that correspond to the 3 colors in my logo. I mean, I'm that anal about, connecting the colors and the color scheme of my logo, et cetera. It's all about your brand, right? These books represent your brand. So, but I'll give you an example. Sitting with a CEO of an architectural and engineering firm, and he's talking about what's not working, and it was strategy that wasn't working for him. So I opened up the Missing Piece for Entrepreneurs. I said, I opened to page 14, which has got the business alignment model diagram on it. And I said, it looks like you're stuck right here at the strategy layer. He said, yeah, I'm stuck right there. Closed the book, autographed it, closed. It's a 1-meeting close. That's happened 3 times. It's a 1-meeting close. Got the credibility. He hears me. He understands where I'm going. Hell, he's written about it. So now he has the book. He can go back in and read it and just read what I was talking about in the meeting. But he became a client right there on the spot.
Okay. That's pretty compelling.
Usually is. And that was 2014. 2014, and he's still a client today. Other questions?
Hey, Rick.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Just I kind of want to make an observation about something that you said. I love the idea of you having the characters in the book so that someone can say, that's me. You're creating a personal relationship with the person reading the book and the book itself. And that there was something that happened over the weekend. I went to see the movie Bohemian Rhapsody about Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
And there was a scene. The band was on the stage. He was late. They were waiting for him. But the lead guitarist was getting the rest of the people of the band to do that stomp, stomp, clap, that became We Will Rock You.
Yes.
The reason behind that, Rick, is they wanted a way to involve the audience in the song. And look how...
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that's why they wrote that song. They didn't have the song and put it... They wanted to be the first band that invited the audience to participate. And look at the power of that song still today. So your strategy is dead on.
It really is and by the way, full disclosure, I got the idea from, and I'm going to use the term because it is appropriate for the time, at Quarterly.
I'll forgive you.
It was quarterly in the context of the story. That's what it was. I got that idea from Leanne Hogan Smith.
Mhm.
So, because not only did the books come out that way, but my website was changed to represent that well. So now when you go to my website, you can self-select. Are you an entrepreneur? Are you a nonprofit leader? Are you a corporate leader? And, just kind of walks you through, and my analytics will know that, hey, I got a lot of corporate leaders that are showing up on my website.
Very powerful.
What else?
So Rick, I'm curious, given where we are right now in the world and how much information is available to people, did you ever consider doing an ebook versus like a paper book?
Okay, so yes, and I have. Every single one of my books is available as a ebook on Kindle.
Okay.
Yeah.
But would you rather not have a physical copy of a book?
No.
Just had an ebook and that's it?
No, I would never consider that.
And why is that?
Because, first of all, my print books are outselling my ebooks. So the data would suggest that people are still buying the paper books. But I go out and, as I go around talking to people, networking, etc., that is my brochure. I don't have brochures. Matter of fact, I don't give out as many business cards as I used to. I give out books. It costs me less than $10 a book to buy wholesale because I'm the author, right? So, and of course, I'm not giving them out to everybody I meet. I'm giving them out to somebody who I've determined is a decision maker who I've gained favorable attention with. Because I guarantee you it'll shorten up the conversation when you can hand a book that talks about the problems that they're having with strategy or with people or with, whatever the case may be. So no, I would not. I keep a limited supply of 5 versions of every book in my, at my disposal. And when I'm out with a nonprofit client or prospect and I give them a copy of The Missing Piece for Nonprofit Leaders, I just restock, and then it gets down to 1 or 2. I just buy 5 more. So it's tangible, right? They can touch it. They can still buy it, for $10 or whatever the price is as a Kindle ebook. But I'm still seeing my print books are still outselling my ebooks, the ebook version. But both are available, to your point.
Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome. Other questions on strategy before we get into how this all works? Because one thing we want to obviously be clear on is, which I think the title alluded to it, is it worth it? Is it worth it from a monetary standpoint? So here's how we self-publish books. Obviously, you got to write it. That goes without saying. I have a book team that I've had for all 5 books together. I've got somebody who is I've had one agency that's done all the cover art. I've got another agency who does the layout for the inside of the book. Because when you go to Kindle, it used to be called CreateSpace, but it has been merged with Kindle. All right, so when you go on to self-publish, obviously both of them are Amazon subsidiaries. So Amazon, it's a sub of Amazon that helps you self-publish. And so, essentially when you self-publish, at the end of the day, you end up with 2 PDF files. One is the cover, front and back and spine. And so I've got one agency that produces that. And then the other is everything on the inside. And I've got another agency that produces that. I also have a professional editor. And then I have one of my 2 webmasters specifically sets up the missingpiecebooks.com. So it's a landing page for people that want to, that are interested in buying the book. So I've got a team that, and I kept the same team because we've made a lot of mistakes over the course of those 5 books. So we're just now getting good at it. So you have to write it, and then you have to come up with your cover art. What do you want the cover to look like? And Amazon will feed you all the specs. If you want my books are 5-inch by 8-inch paperback, so it'll give you all the specs on, based on how many pages, whether it's color or black and white. It'll have all the specs for how big the cover and the spine should be. So that's one file that you're going to upload. Everything else is, again, depending on the size that you want. Paperback, 6x9, 5x8, whatever the size you want. Then you have somebody that can size it for you, and set it up so that you've got your margins set the right way, your graphics will come out the right way, etc. Now, what's a good length for a book? I called all my executive clients and said, what's a good length of a business book? And the common answer basically equated to, I should be able to read it cover to cover between Chicago and Los Angeles. So think 2.5 hours. So every single one of my books is 120 pages, 5x8 paperback, 120 pages. And because my personal opinion, these 300-page business books are 200 pages of bullshit and about 100 or so pages of good stuff that you can actually sink your teeth into and do something with. So that was, and again, that was based on my readership that said, look, I'm not going to read a 300-page book. So every single one of my books is 120 pages, plus or minus a few pages here and there. So once you have the format set up, basically you've set up this account on Amazon, and at the end of the day, by the way, if you don't have a team, you can pay them they'll outsource it or out-task it to others who will help format it for you. I would suggest having a local team, because you're not going to get it right the first time, or possibly even the second time. I've had an issue with every single book, just stuff that happens. And it was great to be able to pick up the phone or know that, we could meet at a Starbucks and say, okay, what the hell? What's going on? One book, the orange book, The Missing Piece for Nonprofits, the color came out brown when I got the proof. And so, they just needed to tweak the color so it came out orange instead of brown. Just stuff like that it's good to be able to look the other person in the eye and say, okay, what are we going to do to make this right? Instead of somebody that's, I don't know, whoever, you don't even know where they are. So once you have these 2 files set up, when you upload it to Amazon, they go through an electronic design check, so that the graphics are of a certain pixelation, it's formatted to the right size, those sorts of things, that it fits their parameters for that size book and that size for that many pages. Other things to really look at are, every book needs an ISBN number, and so as you go into the process, you pick your paper, you pick your size of your book. At what point you'll need an ISBN, and there's another third party, Bowker, BOWKER, where for $10 you can get a ISBN number. I also have what's called a custom imprint. So instead of it saying published by Amazon, my books are all published by RPC Books. again, it's just another way to add brand recognition to the process. Once they've approved all of the formatting that goes into, you have a chance, there's an opportunity, you can either review it online or you can just have them print a proof. I strongly suggest you print a proof. You pay for it, it's, you know, $7-8. They'll send you what it's going to look like when it's printed, and then you can go through it. And again, unfortunately, with I'm Just Saying, it took us 4 proofs to figure out that there's a difference between how thick a book with the same number of pages on the paper that you print color on versus the paper you print black and white. The Missing Piece books all have color graphics in them. The I'm Just Saying book does not. It's all black and white. And unfortunately, it took us about 4 proofs before we figured out what the issue was. But ultimately, we figured it out. It's good to know, to be able to see in your hands what the customer's what the buyer's gonna have in their hands. I'll give you a funny story that happened with The Missing Piece, the first book that came out. So I'm having lunch with somebody who bought the book, and she said, you know, she went through it. She answered the questions at the end of every chapter. I mean, she was into it. But she said, Rick, did you purposely put these pages in the middle? Well, as it turns out, that the batch had gotten mixed up with a children's sewing book. So 20 pages of that sewing book ended up in the middle of her copy of The Missing Piece. So I immediately gave her a clean copy, and, you know, everybody was happy. So that's the only time that anything like that has happened. But I obviously had a conversation with customer service and said, because these books are print on demand, you know, I gotta be, as the author, I gotta be reasonably confident that you're not going to do that again. Because, you know, I've gone to speaking gigs and they've ordered 35 copies for everybody in the audience, you know, that they wanted me to hand sign. I can't take a chance on the fact that, you know, 2 of the copies are going to end up with children's sewing books, you know, in the middle by accident. So
What'd they say?
We're sorry, we'll send you another one.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
What can they say?
it's just a batch gone bad. I mean, that's, but again, it's never happened again. I mean, I've sold, you know, close to 1,000 books, and that's the only case that I've ever come across. I'm sure somebody would have told me if it had happened again.
So this is all print on demand. You don't print books? Or
Nope, not at all. Print on demand.
Wow.
You order 2 books, they print 2 books, and they send them to you. So again, a speaking engagement with an engineering company in New Jersey. Yeah, they wanted to give everybody a book. So I said, fine. So we, 35 copies of I'm Just Saying, and I sat down before the presentation and autographed them all, and that was that.
Rick, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does your pricing, because it's a print on demand, does your pricing change, being that you're the author, if you ask for 2 or you ask for 35 or 40 at a time?
No.
Okay.
No. Now I get mine wholesale. Right.
Yeah, I was talking about you as an affiliate. You're the author, so you get yours wholesale. I didn't know if they still did any quantity type of breakdown or anything like that.
No, it's print on demand.
Okay.
You know, it's whatever, you know, the $17.95 times however many you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the turn time, Rick?
Usually it's a week to 10 days. You know, the big thing is how much you're willing to pay for shipping.
Mm.
I mean, if you want standard shipping, you know, you'll get, and they'll tell you, you know, when you order it. It's usually a couple of weeks if you want it. I mean, if you want it FedExed or something like that, obviously you'll get it in 3 days. 2 days to print and then the overnight send. But given that you're probably going to spend more for shipping than you actually paid for the book, I would suggest you pre-plan. You know. I mean,
So
it's,
you said your cost is like $10.
yeah, I'm buying them wholesale. You're buying them retail.
Yeah. But your cost is fixed at $10 regardless of quantity. Back to Wendy's point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And in going back to my comment about you're not doing this to get rich,
Yeah.
at $19.95, I think I make $2.50 on every book. Puts beer in the fridge. That's pretty much it. But the marketing value is much higher, obviously, than the actual commissions I get. To say that, for the total cost that it costs me to publish a book, all I need is one client to pay for it. One client that I got because of the book. So the missing piece for entrepreneurs, small business owner runs an HVAC company, bought it, read the first 3 chapters on strategic thinking, said, I have no idea how to implement this. Can you help me out? Sure. Paid for itself. Anything after that was just gravy.
Yeah.
So, so then, and of course you set the price so that you're at least making some money, and they'll tell you, Amazon will tell you, you need to price it at such and such a price in order to make any money at all. And then of course, you automatically are in Amazon's marketplace, right? So Kindle or otherwise, that you're now in Amazon space. And to further help market it, I actually have, if you click on I'm just saying in my signature block, if you've ever gotten an email from me, that link goes to my Amazon author page. And so it lists all the books. It gets updated with my latest blogs automatically. I think there's a video of me talking about the book. We're talking about what I do. So it's actually, and it's free. And so it basically gives me that additional website landing page, if you will, and that's where I send people to who want to buy the book. Questions?
So Rick, with this relationship you have with Amazon, is there a site one goes to at Amazon to start this process? And do you start the process before you've actually written the book?
No, you can write the book before you start the process. You need to start the process before you publish the book.
Okay. And where is that?
They just changed it. It used to be called Create Space.
Okay.
And I think if you type that in, it may still be there, but it'll redirect you to Kindle.
Okay.
I haven't been there since they made the switch, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It may just be the e-Kindle site. So now, just again, another strategy idea and how I did this. The question was asked before. I forget who answered it about the print versus the ebooks. Is that Anu?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, right. That was me.
Okay. So strategically, here's what I did. I published the print books first. So I published the print books in, let's say, September of whatever year it was. And then, of course, you market it. You tell everybody, hey, new book out, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's excited. You get a few just on the announcement itself. And then, of course, like anything else on social media, it dies down. So 2 months later is when I launched the ebook. So I let the kind of the excitement die down from the initial announcement, and then I published the ebook and say, hey, the ebook is now available for those of you that want the ebook version. It just gives me another 2 months of social media presence. It just extends the visibility instead of just throwing them both out there at the same time.
Okay, Rick, I have 2 short questions.
Shoot.
you suggested we find a local team.
Yes.
What are those people called? I mean, I'm totally naive to this. How do I know how to find someone who would help? You know, I could Google art book cover, but I'm not sure that would be.
Well, you know, anybody who does graphic design.
Graphic design, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be a good one. And there are people who, you know, people who set up brochures, people who set up, you know, marketing literature for trade shows and that sort of thing would also be able to do a book as well.
Okay. And then the second question is, approximately what do you budget for this project?
Okay, so each one set me back, you know, round numbers, $3,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that's why you only need one client, really. You know,
Rick,
because of the book, you know, to make it pay off.
$3,000 per book, or $3,000 per professional who helped you?
$3,000 per book. That was all in.
Okay, thank you.
Each book set me back $3,000 all in. So I just went to the chamber, my local chamber, and said, you know, I started asking questions. I ran into somebody, just through networking, I ran into a woman who writes local history books. So who do you recommend? Right? And, you know, one thing leads to another. And by that time, you know, you got a team. And they all know each other, or know of each other. So it's the graphic world, you know, the graphic arts,
right.
You know, it's usually a small community. Many times they'll work side projects with each other. So,
so on Amazon, did you start did you do a register for a business account? Did you set that up, or?
No, it's not a business account. Well, they may have changed it, you know, when I started, because it was called Create Space. I think if you go Amazon self-publishing a book or Amazon self-publishing, that may be your better bet as far as where to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's really all about self-publishing that you're looking for.
Right.
Other thoughts or questions that I can answer with?
About how many hours do you think you spent on getting a book going, getting it to the point where you could submit it for print?
The first one, I estimated probably 30 hours.
Oh. Just
writing. I knew what I was writing about. It just, you know, I probably spent 30 hours, you know, getting it to where I needed it. Obviously, the I'm Just Saying book is repurposing already existing material, so I didn't have to rewrite anything. All I had to do was go in and edit some of the time references out of it, so it would stand by itself. And then the missing piece for entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and corporate leaders was essentially an edit of the first book.
Yeah.
To change the language to make sure that it was written to the audience for which it was intended. The big pole in the tent was the original Missing Piece book, and that was about 30 hours.
Okay. Interesting.
Rick, I have another question. You said that in some of your books you had graphics. Were any of those graphics owned by other people, and did you have to get any kind of legal authority to use them?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
The model itself is copyrighted. I mean, trademarked. You know, I have a trademark on it. I think.
Okay.
And then the woman who formatted the interior file actually created puzzle pieces, graphics. So between the two graphic artists that I had working on the book, they created the graphics, and there was no there's no intellectual property that I had to get permission to use.
Okay, I was just curious.
They essentially created it as part of the project that I paid them for.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question, though.
Thank you.
You got to be careful sometimes using.
Yeah, because actually the idea I have is to turn a seminar that I do into a book, but the seminar is based on the Galbraith model.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you know, I have to figure out how to work.
Now, I reference, for instance, Herzberg's two-factor theory. I reference a couple of books. I reference Norton's balanced scorecard.
Right.
But you know, they're referenced, right? So it's not like I'm not giving due credit in the book for those particular diagrams or whatever I'm using.
Okay.
So the last piece that I wanted to share with you is that I mean, books are fine, and I know that it doesn't have the academic rigor where I could actually use it as a textbook, but I have turned the last 3 Missing Piece books into workbooks. So instead of the 5x8, you know, small book, I now have full 8.5 by 11 workbooks. And instead of the questions being at the end of each chapter, I've embedded the questions. So in chapter 1, when I talk about vision, as soon as I'm done talking about vision, I have my 3 questions that the reader should answer about their vision. And so it's much more interactive, and I was able to put some more tools into it and the like, because now it's a full-blown workbook. So those, because I'm going through a rebranding process, I will end up, first quarter next year, we'll end up with essentially a new website, and those workbooks will go on sale on the website. So it's just another way to extend your writing in another way, beyond the book, beyond the ebook. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Any final thoughts or questions before?
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. It's,
you're welcome.
very useful.
This was very informative, Rick. Thank you so much for going into the detail here.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rick.
If I can be of assistance as you start tackling your own books, you know, feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to clarify or just help out in any which way I can.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Thanks. Yeah.
Take care, everyone.